Hey everyone, it's Kimber Schaefer here with Rage in the Cage OKC News. We are hanging out at the Weight Room, the official sponsor for all things Rage in the Cage 63. And speaking of Rage in the Cage 63, I have Zachary Bradshaw here with me. Always a good night when you're on a card. So this fight card is, gonna just kick January off and 2019 off with a storm. 5 pro fights, 2 super fights. I think there's like maybe 12, 13 amateur fights, several titles. It's a great fight card to be on. How are you feeling about this fight? This is your second pro fight.
I feel good. I'm just taking it one day at a time. I've got big goals for 2019. So with this monstrosity of a card, I like to kick 2019 off this way.
Sounds good. Well, what are some of those goals in 2019?
Well, one of the goals is I'd like to move up a little bit, get to a bigger card, get to a bigger show, just get my name out there a little bit more.
That's always the goal, yes.
Yeah, so by the end of 2019, I'd like to fight for Bellator or, Legacy or, just one of those bigger shows.
Sounds good. We pride ourselves at Rage in the Cage in being the stepping stone to get you guys to that point. And that's one reason we do pre-fight interviews, is because once you get to the bigger stage, you're going to be doing this anyway. So might as well get a little practice in now and the nerves out of the way when you're here at Rage in the Cage. So I'm glad to definitely be there for you. So this fight is against Randy Ramirez. Obviously, the last time he was on a Rage in the Cage card, one of your teammates had kind of a bad experience with that. Do you bring that into your fight, or you just put that to the side and just fight your own fight?
I'll think about it a little bit. I've watched that fight. I've seen some of his tendencies and whatnot. So just kind of keeping that in mind and, knowing what he does in the clinch and just being able to stay composed whenever we get to that point.
Well, and this is not my first time interviewing with you, but this may be the first time fans out there have seen our interview. So remind me again what made you want to get into MMA and what made you take that first step to get in the cage?
Well, I've wrestled all through high school. Unfortunately, the scholarships didn't quite have the money to go to school, so I went ahead and just went to work. But, I wasn't done competing yet. Still had that itch, and, I was trading wrestling lessons with Blake Morton, and his dad came out and started showing me some stuff, Muay Thai and some kickboxing and some jiu-jitsu and whatnot, and, just kind of did a couple jiu-jitsu tournaments and decided I wanted more, and so I started that journey to the cage, and after that it was just a wrap.
All right. Well, we appreciate watching you along that journey. It's always fun to see an amateur fighter blossom in his amateur career and then go pro and then, of course, to the bigger stages. So Rage in the Cage fans right here behind you. So appreciate you coming here. Any last words, any shout outs to your gym or anything before we wrap it up right now?
Yeah, shout out to Prodigy and AMA. There's a bunch of world-class guys that train out there, so they're definitely keeping me on my toes, getting me ready. Do want to give a shout out to a couple of my sponsors, Jason Tracy, Tattoos by Jason. He's my tattoo guy. He's also a fellow martial artist, trains out there at Redline. We always have a good time, whenever we go in there for some ink therapy, and then shout out to the Wolf Trap. It's my local watering hole, whenever I'm not in camp. It's just a real laid-back place, good bartenders, nice pool tables. So they're helping me out for this fight, and so got to give them some love.
Ooh, we appreciate them too.
Yeah.
Always loving on our fighters. You're loving on Rage in the Cage. It's a family.
Yep.
So. Well, all right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here for pre-fight interviews. We appreciate you fighting for Rage in the Cage, and we appreciate you fans coming out to support local fighters. You can get tickets from Zachary Bradshaw, any other fighter on the card, of course, stubwire.com. We will see you January 11th at the Oklahoma City Farmers Public Market for Rage in the Cage 63.